All right, guys, so we're going to practice some more elimination this week. So I'm going to go through and do half of these problems. I'll probably do all the odds, and then you guys can go back and do the evens. So before we get started, just remember when we're talking about elimination, you need the same numbers in front, which are your coefficients. You need the same variable, but you need opposite signs because that's how we get them to eliminate. So if we look at number one, our first step is to look and see which two variables that are the same have that same number in front. So if I look here, I technically have an invisible 1 in front of my x's, and I have an invisible 1 in front of my y's. So if you look at your x's, I do have the same coefficient and the same variable, but I don't have opposite signs. So let's look at the next variable. So now let's look at y. I have the same coefficients, I have the same variable, and I also have my opposite sign. So that's what we're looking for. That's what we want to do in order to eliminate. So I'm going to turn this into addition problem, and I left two of these brackets here in case they're helpful for you. If they're not, I didn't include them in the rest. So if I bring this over, I have x minus y equals 1, and I have x plus y equals 3. And we can see right here, we already decided that that was the same number, same coefficient, opposite signs. These can cancel right out. This whole thing becomes an addition problem, and I'm going to add down. So now I have x and x gives me 2x. My y's canceled, so there's nothing here. Bring down my equal sign, and 1 plus 3 gives me 4. Now I want to solve for x. So in order to get x alone, I want to divide by 2. These cancel out. Bring down my x equals, and 4 divided by 2 will give me 2. So now that I found my x, I found the first part of my solution. So I need to take this information and I'm going to plug it back into one of my problems. So I'm going to take the bottom one, and you can take the top as well. It'll get the same one. So I have 2 plus y equals 3. In order to solve for y, I need to subtract 2. Bring down my y equals, and 3 minus 2 gives me 1. So my ordered pair there is 2, 1. Okay, so let's look at number 3. Okay, so for number 3, we're going to look and see if we can find same variable, same coefficient, but opposite signs. So here, again, we know that there's technically invisible 1s in front of those x's. And if I look at my x's, I have same x, same coefficient, but I have the same sign because technically both of these are positive, so they wouldn't cancel out. So I'm going to look at my y's. When I look at my y's, I see I have the same variable, but I have different coefficients. So a lot of you were still just subtracting these and getting 2x and trying to solve this whole thing, and you were getting a little confused, like, why isn't this working? That's because we need to eliminate something. So if my signs don't match, I need to multiply one of these equations by -1. So I'm going to choose my top equation. You can pick your bottom. Again, it doesn't matter. So if I have -1 times a -1x, that gives me -1x. -1 times a +4y gives me a -4y. And a -1 times a +11 gives you a -11. So guys, remember to put your parentheses around the whole problem so that you know this 1 gets distributed to everything, including this answer. So now I'm done with this top one, and I'm going to look at these two. And now I can eliminate my x's because I have 1 and 1, x, and opposite signs. So automatically these cancel out. The rest of this still becomes an addition problem. So now I have negative 6y and negative 4y, and if I add those together, I get negative 10y equals, and 11 minus 11 gives me 0. In order to get y alone, I divide by negative 10. 10s cancel out, and that would give you y equals 0. So now I'm going to take this information and I'm going to plug it back into one of my problems because I have my y, but I need to find out what is my x. So when I plug this back in, you can pick any one. I'm going to pick the bottom one. I have x minus 6 parentheses. Remember, parentheses about whatever it is you're putting into the problem. So now I have 6 times 0 gives me 0. And if I add 0 to the other side, I have x equals 11. So my x would be 11. Okay, let's look at 5. Okay, so again, looking for same coefficient, same variable, opposite signs. Now I have 3x, 3x. I have 4y, 6y. These don't have the same coefficient, so I'm not going to use those. Here I have same coefficient, same variable, but I need to change the sign for one of these 3x's. So again, I'm just going to choose the top and multiply everything by negative 1. So when I do that, I get negative 3x minus 4y equals negative 19. So now that my 3x's can cancel out, I will eliminate these and turn the whole thing into an addition problem. So if you have 6 minus 4y, that would give you 2y equals, and 33 plus negative 19 will give you 14. Divide by 2. Y equals 7. So now I have my y. I'm going to have to plug in order to find my x. So I'm going to go ahead and plug into the top one. And I'm going to have, do it over here, 3x plus 4 parentheses 7 equals 19. So now I need to solve. First thing I need to do is 4 times 7, which is 28. I'm just combining like terms, so I'm going to subtract my 28. And if you do 19 minus 28, you will get a negative 9. Divide by 3, x equals negative 3. And there's your solution. All right, 7. So looking at 7, we have 3x and 4x. We don't have the same coefficient and we don't have the same sign. So let's go to the next one. My next one, I have 4y and 4y. I also have opposite signs. So this one's perfect. This one's already set up to eliminate. So I'm going to eliminate my 4y's. Turn this into an addition problem. 3x plus 4x gives me 7x equals 12. Oh, I have to add these. So it gives me 14. Get x alone, we divide by 7. And 14 divided by 7 gives me 2. So now that I have my x, I need to take that and plug it back into one of my original problems. I'm going to put it back into the first one. So I would have 3 parentheses 2 plus 4y equals 2. Now remember to make sure that you're plugging your x and your y's into the right, in for the right variable. So make sure your 2 isn't here for your y, because we found it for x. So 3 times 2 is 6. Subtract my 6. 4y equals negative 4. Divide by 4. Y equals negative 1. All right, so number 9. If we're looking at these and we start with our x's, we can see that we have a 2 and a 5. So those coefficients aren't the same. So I'm going to go to my next variable, which is my y's. So I have my same coefficient, 3 and 3, same variable, y and y. But again, my signs are not opposite. So I need to multiply everything by negative 1. So I'm going to multiply the top one again by negative 1. And remember, you need to multiply everything, even what's after the equal sign. So now that'll give me negative 2x plus 3y equals negative 9. So now I've set it up so that I can cancel out my 3y's. Turn it into an addition problem. So I have negative 5 and plus negative 2 gives me negative x, negative 7x. 3's cancel. And then I have 30 minus 9, which would give me 21. Divide by negative 7. 7's cancel out. X equals negative 3. So I found my x. Now I need to take that information and plug it back in. So if I go to plug this back in, I'm going to plug it back into the first one. I have 2 parentheses, negative 3 minus 3y equals 9. 2 times negative 3, negative 6 minus 3y equals 9. Going to combine like terms, so I'm going to add my 6 to my 9, which would give me negative 3y equals 15. If you divide by negative 3, you'll get negative 5. Okay, so now let's take a look at your word problem. So some of you were kind of looking at these and trying to fit the whole thing in there. Some of you were looking at these and just going like 28 minus 4 because you saw 28 difference of 4. But remember, what we're really looking to do is find 2 problems like you've been solving for. So I'm looking for something that looks like that. So if we have find the sum, that means addition, of 2 numbers, we know that's going to be my x and my y, means equals 28. Then those same numbers, x and y again, their difference is going to be 4. So what are the numbers? So I want you to solve these. So this means I'm going to set this up and do x plus y will give me 28. And then x minus y will give me, sorry, it's kind of blurry, will give me 4. So now I need to eliminate, and right away these are set up perfect, so I can eliminate my y's because I have technically a 1 in front of there, a 1 in front of there, and I have opposite signs. So that would give me 2x, need another pen. So that would give me 2x equals 32. So in order to solve for x, I'm going to divide 32 by 2, which would give me 16. So I have my x. Now I need to take that and plug it back into one of these problems. So I'm going to just plug it into the top one. So instead of x, I'm doing 16 plus y equals 28. And then solve for y, so I got to subtract 16. And 28 minus 16 will give you y equals 12. So your two numbers would be 16, comma 12. Okay, so you're going to do the same exact thing for this bottom one. Find two numbers, so again, x and y, whose sum is 29 and whose difference is 15, and then you're going to solve them. Okay, so you guys are going to go through and just do the evens. If you need help, email me. Use these examples to help you. There's also still all the examples from your notes that you can use as well.